Welcome to Shakti's Gift, a podcast about creating a unique way of living. I'm your host, Marigol Era, Ayurvedic wellness coach, unschooling mother, and creative force. I think that life is a tapestry of all our stories, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, and everything in between. So in this podcast, I want to invite you to unleash your creativity and unveil yourself, your true self, so that we make this world a better place to live in. So grab yourself something to drink, get yourself comfortable, and let's dive deep into what the hell does it mean to be a human in this modern age and time. Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to Shakti's Gift. In this week's episode, we meet Liss. She's a breathwork facilitator, a coach, and a podcaster. And in this episode, she will share with us her perspective on the relationship between creativity and our nervous system. So as you may know, I've always been super interested in that, the creativity and the nervous system. I think they're intertwined. They're definitely linked together. And in this conversation I had with Liss, it was clearer and clearer every minute I spent with her how much creativity is of a lot of values in our lives. And especially in this day and age where, AI is coming and knocking at our doors, I think it's more than crucial to be deeply connected with our creativity because that's what makes us human. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and yeah, leave me your comments in the description down below. And if you have any questions, and if you're curious about meeting Jen, all of her links are linked in the description down below, so don't hesitate to contact her. So enjoy this episode, and I'll see you soon. All right, amazing. So thank you so much, Jen, to be here today. Welcome to Shakti's Gift.
I'm so excited to be on. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So, how do you usually introduce yourself? I know you have like all kinds of stuff. You have a podcast, you have breathwork facilitator. So, how do you introduce yourself usually?
Oh, it depends on the day. No. Yeah, I'm a coach, a speaker, a person who cares a lot about people unleashing their most extraordinary gifts into the world and living the life that they really want to live. So I'm, like you said, I'm a breath worker. That's one of the main things that I do in my coaching is supporting people with their mind-body connection and being more creative. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So what would you say the place of creativity in your life is? Like,
it's a constant. I grew up in a very creative household. My parents are both incredibly creative, but in their own very unique ways. I did not grow up in a house where it was like we are painters and we're very official creatives in the way that we think of creativity. So I grew up in this incredibly creative house, but I have always had what I have called creative imposter syndrome. Even though I like every other human being, am incredibly creative, I didn't see it in myself. And it has been this huge journey back to myself and back to my own creativity and what that really means to me. And I'm super passionate about helping people rediscover what it truly means for you to be creative and genuinely what the definition of creativity actually is, and the fact that that's your birthright. It's actually something that is ingrained in you as a human being, and the ways in which not believing you're creative actually block you from living your best life.
yeah,
Those of us who don't see ourselves as creative, you're stopping yourself from so much of your capacity to magic here as a human being.
Yeah. So what do you mean when you say that it wasn't like a conventional creativity environment in your family? What do you mean by that?
So my father worked in aircraft. I'm from Wichita, Kansas, central of the US, where airplanes are made. If you've flown on an airplane somewhere in the world, you likely have somehow been touched by my dad and other coworkers of his who create the parts of airplanes. And so my dad did that kind of work, factory work. And it has taken me until my later adulthood, now in my 40s, to really look at my father and say, holy baloney, he is so creative. Like, he has this 3D printer now and he's doing things that are so freaking cool. And it's like, oh, that's what he's done his entire life, is that kind of work. But now he's got this new tool where he can really engage that creative prowess that he had. And so that's what my dad did at work, but I didn't see it. I didn't get to see what my dad did at work every day and how creative it was. So he's always been using this like mathematical mind of his to create things, to create actual airplane parts that are very real. My mom, when in my upbringing, my young upbringing, she was a stay-at-home mom, 5 kids, really difficult to work when you've got 5 little children running around. And she did everything. She's like the Girl Scout leader. She was our church teacher. We called that CCD. I don't even know what that stands for. And she was like my cheerleading coach. She did all of those kinds of things, continuously coming up with little creative activities to keep kids entertained. And so that's what I grew up with. My mom, I mean, she still sends me, I'm 41 years old. She just sent me an Easter package in the mail full of all kinds of creative things. It's just the way that my mom thinks.
I love it.
But it's not like she was putting up a canvas on the wall and painting it or writing music. And I think that's so, for so many people, and me too, like that's what we see. Oh, creativity. It's like the definition of it is these certain areas. And so I didn't always recognize the incredible creativity that I grew up around. It's taken a long time.
Yeah, I get it. Like, it's true. We almost always associate, creativity with being an artist, when it's not like that. Like, engineer is so creative, and like, even I know you were in the hair business. I mean, like, this is
I literally painted heads and didn't see
right?
myself as being a creative.
It's so creative. Like, I just, there's so many. I have like this amazing list of many ways to be creative, and it's from like cooking to organizing an event to I don't know, just like decorating your house or doing landscaping. It doesn't matter what you're creating. Like, it matters that you are creating something.
And it comes down to even the definition of an artist. What is definition of an artist? Because I would beg to say that every single one of those things that you just described is artistry.
Yeah.
It's applying your gifts to create something. It's using your gifts and your brain and all of the experiences that you have had to see things through your specific lens that is creating your way. And so it's like redefining what that really means. And we're coming into, and I'm sure you're going to dig into this, we're coming into a day and age where it's necessary. It's so necessary that as human beings, we see ourselves as creative. If you don't, you're 100 steps behind. ChatGPT is doing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
We've
right.
got to see our unique gifts that we've got.
Yeah, our human gifts.
Human gifts, yes.
Where there's like this feeling behind it, there's like, so what would be your definition of creativity?
It has evolved over time. I was thinking about it this morning because I knew that we were going to dig into creativity a little bit. And I used to say, I started a podcast called The Creative Commute. My podcast is now a different name, but when I started it, it was called The Creative Commute. And I was really digging in to creativity. What does it mean to be creative? What does it mean for us to create? How are we applying that? How are all of our experiences leading to our unique creativity? This was my premise and my curiosity. And when I started that podcast, I said, all creativity is 2 things coming together and forming something new. And I might still be on board with that definition because it's 2 thoughts, it's 2 ideas, 2 or more, could be multiple combining all at the same time. And now it's something new. It goes so deep though. There's so many layers on that. And I've learned so much about how humans, what makes us capable of creating. And so I don't know, Marigol, I might still be on that. Now that I say it out loud to you, I think I'm still on board. It's just 2 or more things coming together in a whole new way. But other organisms don't do that in the way that human beings do that. and
Yeah.
our brain works in a way that other organisms don't.
Yeah, I
Although
agree.
some raccoons are awfully creative.
Yeah.
They kind of creep me out a little bit.
But yeah, I think it's a great definition to just like be able to put two things together to create something different. It's like you birth something, you there's something new alive from those two thoughts or two ideas or two, I don't know, anything. It could be anything, right? It could be two anything, like it could be two food. You put them together and then you create something else, you create
Yeah.
like some kind of meal or anything. So yeah,
You
so
think of
how
anything in this world, it's all been created
yeah,
by more things coming together,
together.
ideas coming together, physical things coming together. There's something
Yeah.
here in Oregon, never heard of it in my life until I moved to Portland, Oregon, the Marionberry. Like, what is a Marion? Everybody, Marionberry, everything up here. There's Marionberry ice cream, there's Marionberry jelly, there's
Mm.
Marionberry, drinks. It's Marionberry everywhere. I'm like, what the hell's a Marionberry? Somebody at the University of Portland years ago took I believe it's two berries. It's a blackberry and I think a boysenberry, put them
Yeah.
together and created the Marionberry. And it's in everything. It's in everything. But, it's just something that's common here. And it's just two physical things. They put the seeds together and created something new.
Created something new. Is it any good?
Delicious. So good. It's like the best of both worlds of these two berries put
Amazing.
together. And yes, Marionberry ice cream. If you come to Portland, if you come to the Pacific Northwest, let yourself enjoy the Marionberry. It's delightful.
Amazing.
Thank goodness those researchers put that
Right.
together.
So how do you express creativity in your life? I mean, you have this podcast, so of course, like you're creating something with that. Is there anything else? Like,
I mean, all day, every day, everything is a creation. Everything is a creation. And I know that that's just so broad, but yeah, I mean, I create breathwork facilitation. That's what I do. I lead people through breathwork journeys. When I learned breathwork, I learned a very specific way. You sit down with people and you do this, and then you move into this, and then you do that, and you help them do this. There's a formula.
mm-hmm.
I love bringing my own creativity into it. I have people dance and then we twerk and then we do all of these things, which we could talk about why I have people do that, because that's my style. That's bringing my creativity, my nervous system regulation knowledge that I have and the coaching
Mm.
that I have. I'm bringing it into my specific breathwork journeys. There's other breathworkers in my membership who do it completely different because they're bringing all of their experiences and their way and what works for them into what they do. So
Yeah.
that's one very specific example of how my skills, my experiences, what brings me joy, I'm bringing in. And the more I do that, the better my breath work gets. The
That's
more
amazing.
of me I put into it, and the more that I consider, oh my gosh, what would I want to receive? What would I want to do? What am I
Mm.
doing for myself that I put into it? The better it gets, because that's more of me being
Mm.
infused into it. I think somebody was interviewing Larry King once and said, Larry, what makes a great interviewer? What makes, the best interviewers? What makes them so good at what they do? And he said, they're themselves.
Mm.
They're so fully themselves. And so they're naturally bringing their style and their magic into it.
Mm.
And that's their creativity. That's your
Yeah.
creativity. It's simply who you are and what you're bringing to the table in any moment. The more freely that can flow, the more creative, and I would posture the more successful you will be.
I love that. I love that. So I'm very curious about how did you discovered what led you to breath work? Like, how did that happen? It's just like I know you were in the hair industry, and I think you were working a little corporate there for a moment. And then, like, I'm just like so curious about like what led you to experiencing or to just like decide, oh my God, I'm going to be a breathwork facilitator. Like,
A creative journey. And I think it's important to talk about these. So I appreciate this
mm,
question, because the place where I would have never if I was an artist painting my own canvas of life, I would have never said yes. And in 2022, she shall become a breath worker. That was never what I would have pictured for my life or what I would have seen for myself. In fact, my entire journey has just been surprise after surprise.
Mm.
And I like it that way. And there's been a lot of courageous leaps that have happened. So yeah, I did hair for 12 years. I had my own business, 6 figures, doing so well. I mean, in the Midwest, doing 6 figures in a hair business, I was working practically till my knuckles were bleeding.
Mm.
I was so busy. I was like, but I was burnt out. So
Yeah.
I end up leaving my hair career and I go and I start over. I completely started over in a corporate career. And along the way, it was like really fun and creative and exciting for a while. And I found myself to the same point that I got with hair, where I was like,
Mm.
my knuckles are bleeding and I'm bored and I'm not having fun
Yeah.
anymore. And I was like, what is the deal? And that was when I wasn't sure where to turn, but I found a podcast called Don't Keep Your Day Job. And I was like, well, I'm kind of not wanting to keep my day job. I start
Mm.
listening to it. And she is a creative. Like it's Kathy Heller. I believe you know her. And,
Yeah.
she is a creative and she understood me. She got the path
Mm.
that I was on. And I was like, okay, this lady gets me.
Mm.
And she now coaches people to help them to really unleash their creative gifts and understand what that means. And so
Mhm.
she's been such a huge mentor of mine. And I myself was like, wow, she helped me so much. I want to help other people. And
Mm.
so I ended up getting into coaching, which then got me into this whole new realm of healing and this whole world. And I had a breathwork experience in one of my coaching calls where I was like, something unlocked in me,
Mm.
emotion that I've never felt before. I felt this it was this most incredible experience that I can't even explain. And you'll hear people say this about breath work or maybe other practices, maybe psychedelics, whatever it is that you have that just blows your physical mind body experience out of the
Mm.
water. I had one of those and I was like, I need more of whatever that was. And that led me down the path of breath work and really discovering how dysregulated my nervous system was
Mm.
and how I could regulate my nervous system in order to help me feel so much more secure, in order to help me tap into my creativity, in order to help me make decisions
Mm.
in a whole different way, in order to help me podcast with confidence to speak. I spoke on stage last week, things like that I never could have done before I discovered breath work and the way that it has supported me
Mm.
in really feeling so solid and grounded in who I am and regulating my nervous system along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. Like the first time I've experienced the breathwork session, it was like an hour and a half long. It was like very long.
Ooh, that's a deep first time.
Yes, I was so nervous right before it. I was like, "Oh my God, am I gonna throw up?" And like, what's gonna happen? I was like so freaking nervous. And but it was, oh my God, it was so amazing. And it just like it unleashed something and it was like in my throat. And I started the podcast right after. It just like,
It's beautiful.
I needed to speak, I needed to say stuff, I needed to just like meet people and talk with them, and it was so blocked. I actually lost my voice for almost 3 weeks after this intense first breathwork session. But then after, like, to lose my voice was actually what led me to, oh my God, like I need to speak up. I need to tell something. I need to tell my story. I need to reach out to people and listen to their story. Like there's the throat chakra is like it's not just what you say, but what you're hearing as well, what you're listening, and the way we are in action in the world. And so it was like there was a lot of meaning, and I felt it so strongly while the breath work was happening. And then after, yeah, I lost my voice, so it was like even clearer, and I just like took the time to heal that and to just like recover. And then I started my podcast after, and it was just like right on point. It was just like exactly what I needed. And then after that, like breathwork kept going in my life, those shorter sessions. And I did like another one, another big one. But those shorter session in the day-to-day life is actually so good for the nervous system. So
It is. Your breath is a pathway. It's a direct line, actual direct line to your nervous system. We're breathing all day, every day. It's the first thing you do when you
mhm,
come to this world. It's the last thing you do when you leave. We're always breathing, and your breath is one of the only things that you have physical control over in your body. It happens automatically. You simply breathe, and you can take a deep breath and tell yourself to breathe. And
yeah.
as we breathe, it actually shifts the state of our nervous system. You can do fast and quick breaths through your mouth that will activate your sympathetic. You can do short or long and slow breaths through your nose that will activate the parasympathetic. We can change our state with our breath, and we can move energy physically through our body. I love what you said about the throat chakra. I just did deep dive throat chakra
Mm,
session with my community this past Saturday. And we were talking about this, the throat chakra for women, not just women, but in particular, there have been generations after generation of us being told not to share our voice. It
yeah.
physically is not safe to share your voice. It is not safe for you to be connected to your actual truth because you might be killed.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's, and when it comes to, when we look at it, especially if you've got multiple things, maybe from not just gender, but also race, like all kinds of things, you have those things layered on, it gets even deeper, not
Mhm.
feeling safe to be, not even just sharing your voice, but fully connected to the actual source of your truth.
Yeah.
So much blockage that is happening for people there. And there's your throat chakra. It's a V from your throat down to your heart,
Mhm.
direct connection from heart to throat. Like your purpose right here in your heart is
Mhm.
coming through that throat. And if we're disconnected there, we can't. I love what you said too about listening. It's about, listening to self and listening to others and making that connection through there. And so breathwork is a very powerful way to clear that energy for yourself and start to feel like you can speak. I love that it has supported you so deeply.
Yeah, yeah, and even like the second time I did it, the second big session, like another hour and a half. And that second time, it was more in my hips, which is like, the womb space, that's where your creativity lies,
Creation.
And so that's when decided to rebrand the podcast and to just like create something new, something that was more um not that the first version was not authentic, but something that was even more authentic to like more specific to who I am. And so yeah, so breath work for me was both big experiences were very like catalyst of transformation to something even bigger and more beautiful in my own life. And those little sessions are just so helpful to regulate the nervous system on a day-to-day basis. And so yeah, so what would be like according to you, what would be the relationship between the nervous system and our creativity?
There's a direct line there as well. So, in order for us to be creative, in order for our brain to connect two things together, if we take it down to the most simple, and we're talking about creating, bringing things together, bringing new ideas together, in order for our brain to activate that part, that requires the most modern part of the human brain to be
Mm-hmm.
activated. That requires the neocortex to be activated, which is that front part of the brain. That's where creation happens. That's where those new ideas come together and are formed. If we are activated in our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight flight part of our nervous system, there's a tiger in the brush and I need to run, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
activated and I'm energized and I'm moving forward. That part of our brain, when that is activated, that's our amygdala, that's our fear center.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole different part of our brain. So in order to be in our most creative, we've got to have that neocortex lighting up as opposed to the amygdala.
Mm-hmm.
And the neocortex activates when our parasympathetic is activated, when we're in that side of our nervous system. That's when we can be more creative because we feel safe. We are
Mm.
safe. If you are running from a tiger that is in the brush, or you're fighting for your life somehow, it doesn't make any sense for that part of your brain to be lit up. It's not like, oh, I need
Mm.
to sit here and get creative and come up with new ideas and enjoy myself. That's so, but a lot of us are walking around like there's a lion in the brush all day, notifications on our phone, being
Mm.
afraid that we might lose our job, making sure that we are doing the work so that our people see that we're valuable, being
Mm-hmm.
afraid about money, all of these fears that we're facing. Our relationships is, something on the rocks there. All of those things can have us living in a constant state of survival mode, in a
Yeah.
constant state of that sympathetic activation. And sure, we can be a little bit creative here and there because we're forced to be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not where that more enjoyable, playful creativity is happening, which is where the ideas really start to drop in, where more things can start to connect. That's happening in that more rest, digest area of our parasympathetic nervous system, when that
Mm.
other part of our brain is turned on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What would you say are the signs that you're stuck over here? Like you're stuck behind, like you're not in your newest version of your brain, but you're kind of stuck. Because I feel like when we're in that state of that survival mode, it's like that wheel is turning and it keeps on turning and turning and turning and until you get like really really depleted and you can even like get sick or like because you're too depleted. And so like what are the earliest sign, like do you know like what would be the
Yeah.
earliest sign? Yeah.
It's such a good question. I will say, for anybody listening, I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not a doctor. I know what I know. And this is through my experience as a breath worker, as a coach, and through my training and through my own personal perspective and what I have experienced. And I'm constantly curious and experimenting with these
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
But I want to say that the sympathetic is not bad. When we're in that activated part of our nervous system is a good thing. We want both. We want to be toggling back and forth and have what we call a flexible nervous system, where we're
Mm.
able to go into action. The sympathetic sends you into action, sends you into activity, get you moving, get you going, keeps us from just being a log on the couch all the time. If we were just
Mm-hmm.
in the parasympathetic and just totally relaxed all the time, we would have a really hard time navigating modern society. Our brain and our bodies are so freaking smart,
Mm.
and we recognize that we need to be doing both. The problem is that biologically, we just haven't caught up to this situation that we're living in right now, where we're so activated all the time and we're very, very disconnected from our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So disconnected from our
Yeah.
bodies. And we aren't comfortable being in our bodies. We've been taught to numb out our emotions. All of those things have stopped us from really activating our parasympathetic, which happens when we are embodied. So
Mm-hmm.
we're living constantly in that stress mode. And
Yeah.
so you asked about when we're in the sympathetic, what are we feeling? How do we know we're stuck over there? You're stressed. You're anxious. You're experiencing brain fog. You can't get anything done. You're procrastinating. All of those things, you're inflamed.
Mm-hmm.
You have, perhaps you might have been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. They're finding
Mm.
so many links between constant cortisol, which is what your body is pumping when we're in the sympathetic, and autoimmune diseases, which I myself, this is what sent me down this rabbit hole.
Mm.
Part of my story is when I was doing hair, my hands were going numb and I was
Mm.
having weird tingles all over my body. My
Mm.
whole leg would go numb. And I was like, what is happening? I go to the doctor and she's like, you've got thyroid disease. And I said, no, I don't. Let's test that again. I made her test it 4 times. She's like, you need to be on medication, Jen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening? That sent me down this holistic well-being rabbit hole that ultimately got me where I'm at today. So there's this mystery that's been happening in the medical community around autoimmune diseases for so long, and they're starting to unravel a lot of things happening in the nervous system for us. So all of those things are signs that your sympathetic activation is very strong. We're flexing our sympathetic muscles all day, every day. What I think we could be doing more of is flexing our parasympathetic muscles so that
Most
we can
definitely.
toggle back and forth. Because right now we're just so strong over here. It's like we're only working out our left arm, and or is it our right arm? We've got a lot of muscle on one side, and we're really unbalanced. So
Yeah.
I think what we could all be doing a hell of a lot more of is playing, that's activating that parasympathetic and strengthening that side.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And as a mother, like I see my kids playing all the time.
Mm.
And it's so true that when I get to play with them and their ways, like it brings something up in me that is very different and very light. And it helps a lot. Yeah. It helps a lot to be playing and to be in the movement in our bodies. I feel like I agree with what you're saying. I feel that very strongly. We've been disconnected to with our emotion, like this thing that is in motion, that is like meant to move. Like I always see like emotion as waves, and I always say like that the waves will never like just keep on pushing. Like it will always retract. Like there's no wave in nature that will, even a tsunami, like it's just it will retract at one point. Like it will not just stay there. That would be crazy. And so when we're in that nervous system that is very activated, it's like those waves are just like kind of stuck there, and like you get stuck in this emotion, like not able to make it move out of you. And you're like stuck in that sense. And so when we get into a movement, whatever it is, like dance, gardening, just like whatever, yoga, fitness, swimming, it doesn't matter what is the movement, but we need to be back in touch with our bodies. And with this digital era, like it's just like, I mean, we spend so much time in the mind realm, and it's so easy to just like stay stuck in front of a screen without even like moving from there. There's always something coming in, there's always a new information coming out of this box. And so I think that that's, as you said, in this modern society, like we need to be in both of those nervous system. But I think we forget to be in this calm, digestive, resting, creative part um of it.
It's so interesting what you say. I love that idea of the wave. And it's like waves are meant to be moving back and forth, kind of like your nervous system is meant. There's the push, and then it pulls back, and then there's the push, and then it pulls back. And we're in this constant state of push. And then not pausing to recognize what has been pushed in.
Mm.
And so it is like everything is energy, and emotion is indeed energy, because everything is. You are made up of energy. Everything is made up of energy. And the harder and more solid something is, the more dense that
Mm-hmm.
energy is, which means it's not waving back and forth
Mm-hmm.
as much. And there's research being done into cancer, and it's really dense. Cancer is so dense. And so it's
So dense.
potentially, I'm so curious to learn what we're going to learn in the next couple of decades on this
Mm.
stuff. But, it's like there are questions around whether that is emotion that is getting trapped in our bodies and we're holding on to it. And what I have learned and seen, and I know physically for myself and what I've seen for other clients of mine, when we go and we simply witness that emotion, when we go and we look at those blocks and
Mm.
it's like, oh, I see what's here. the wave releases and it goes back.
Yeah.
And then it can start to move again. And you look at any creative practice, everything that you listed there, you know, dancing, drawing. I have a friend who teaches calligraphy to nurses as a way of them processing
Mm.
and getting back into their bodies and activating that creativity. All of these creative practices that we have engaged in as human beings
Mm-hmm.
for our entire existence,
Yeah.
they're parasympathetic activators. They connect you back into your body. You're using your body, you're using your hands, you're using your brain in a different way. All of
Mm.
those things are activating the parasympathetic. So when we're just looking at our phone and consuming and consuming and receiving, it's like the waves are coming in and we're not letting it move back out into that pull that you mentioned. And so we've got to start having more fun. We have to start being more playful and creative like your beautiful children who do it so naturally.
They are doing that. And we used to be children, so we used to do that as well. You know?
We are still children. We're still
Exactly.
children in adult bodies who have put enormous expectations on ourselves about
Mm.
how we are supposed to be behaving.
Yeah. I love what you said about the cancer thing. Like my mother passed when I was 17, like a long time ago, and she had this very aggressive cancer, and she was a woman that wasn't able to speak to anyone, not even like a psychiatrist or a psychologist. No one would be able to listen to hear because it just wouldn't come out of her. And we know that she had like a lot of traumas, and by not talking about it, like it just like for me, even when I was 17 and she started to be sick when I was 12, and even back then I knew deep down inside of me that there was something that she needed to say, she needed to process, she needed to paint it or draw it, or I don't know, write it or say it, I don't know, but there was something stuck inside of her that was so dense that it created, like I feel like we're always creating something, and then if we're not expressing it um in a way that will be nurturing for us, it's going to create something bad, it's going to create something like it did for her. It created this cancer, and I know there's no scientific proof of that, and it's just something
Yet.
that there's yet, but there's this inner knowing, that there's this intuition, and it's just something I know, and I cannot prove it. I'm not a scientific, like I'm not a doctor, I'm not anything like that, but I know I've seen it. I've seen her shutting down and completely closed up about like talking, and some of her sisters tried so hard to just like be there for her to express and to just like release all of this density that was like stuck so deeply into her. And by seeing that, like it just like confirmed something for me where I just knew that we need to be in this movement of like expressing. And even sometimes if it's freaking ugly, like it doesn't matter. It's just let it be, just let it be. And then there's such there's a big part of the healing process that's just like by expressing it, by creating something out of it. I know that for me it resolved in dancing, writing and painting. Like these are my ways to express, and if I'm not doing that, it's going to turn on me. I see it, I know it, I've experienced it, and it's just no fun. It's awful when it happens. So it's I think that cancer can actually be like way less than this huge thing that is happening all over this planet right now, by just like honoring what is real in this moment.
I'm sorry to hear that about your mom. Even if it was a
Mm,
long time ago, it's still
yeah.
hard. And my husband lost his mom. We
Mm,
were 20 years old when she passed away. It was suddenly from cancer. And strangely, Marigol, just yesterday, we were having a conversation about it. And I said, like, do you think that there might have been anything? And we had this huge conversation. He was like, she had so many things that she didn't say. And I
Mm.
know that she had things that she didn't say, and we'll never know, right? And it does raise so much curiosity. And I'm in this space with so many things of there's a lot that we're doing in this world and that science has told us in the past 30 years that's not working
Mhm.
with mental health,
Oh, yeah.
cancer, all of these things. It's not working. And any human being with two eyeballs and a brain can very easily, and a body can easily see and feel and taste and touch that. It's not working. So why not play with some of these other more ethereal, non scientifically proven things? So to
Yeah.
me, I'm like, I'm playing in the realm of energetic possibilities right now because the science that we have currently hasn't really worked for my body. Even though I
Mhm.
take the thyroid medication, I still have a lot of the effects of, having my sympathetic nervous system wreak havoc on my body for so many years. It's like I'm still have those things. So I'm playing. Like, why not play with it? Why not look into the effects of frequency? Why not
Mhm.
look into the effects of breath work and moving energy and Reiki and these things that humans have been doing for so many years? Why
Yeah.
not look into some of those ancient practices and try them and chant and use
Yeah.
those vibrations from our own human voices to try things? I was thinking the other day, this is all totally supposing. I was thinking about how little kids probably talk these days. We don't use our voice. I used to sit and talk on the phone to my friends as a teenager all night long. We would
Yeah.
talk and talk and talk. And now there's no talking.
Yeah.
We're just texting. I'm like,
Yeah.
how much are we not healing ourselves using the healing power of our own
I know,
voices and
right?
expressing?
Yeah.
I It's fascinating.
Yeah, especially those kids, like my oldest daughter, she's 12 and my youngest is 6, and like screen are a big part of their reality, like whether or not we like it, it's like the future is there's a part of this future that is digital, and there's like a lot of opportunity going on. And my kids are not going in the school system, and so they are free here, and my oldest daughter, like, she went through a lot of a very big dip, like a deep dive into this digital um world. It's a world. It's another it's like another reality. They say virtual reality. It's like it's literally another reality. And she went down this rabbit hole, and it was way too much for her to handle, and I let her go through that by just being there for her as she's going through it. We need to let them experience that because they're the one that's going to need to understand this thing so that they can deal with it. And it was very interesting. And now she's creating from this tool, but before it was like creating her. It was so crazy to see this relationship between this device and her, creating her. And then now she actually flipped the script and she's creating from that device, and she created her own YouTube channel, and she's like painting digitally, and she's so good at it, and she spends like 10 hours a day just like painting on. So there's like this movement, there's this creativity, but even that I see that there's like something missing. And so we have this ritual every day where we spend like at least 2 hours around the table to just speak, to just talk, what's up, what's going on, and to just like ask question, and she will ask us question and we will ask her questions. And it's we need to stay connected together because this thing is growing. This digital thing is growing. I mean, like, if it weren't from that, we wouldn't be speaking right now, So there's magic in there, and there's like also like, I don't know, struggle, I don't know, danger. I don't know how to put it yet. Like, it's so all new, and so I think it's we need to keep on moving and not get stuck into this box that is like so full. so full
Yeah,
of
I think it's that
everything.
holistic mindfulness that you're bringing to your family and that you're bringing to her. And you're also holding a safe space
Hmm.
for her to experiment, and you're letting her go in and do it. And then she's got the safety of being held by a mom who's going to be like, okay, I'm here for you. Let's talk about this. Let's
Yeah.
talk about this. Let's go in, because you're right. This is our reality and it's really freaking cool. Like,
Yeah.
we're living in such a
Right.
cool time. Like, when we started this conversation, I mentioned my father. He's, in his late 60s,
Hmm.
and he's using these digital tools in this cool new way that's using his creative brain that he's had his entire life. And now he can create new things. He's creating really cool stuff. And he's making me a new mic stand for my mic that is custom made for my mic. The fact that he can do that and he's having so much fun with it
That is so
at
cool.
in his 70s is so freaking cool. It's so cool that what we have. And if we don't take that holistic approach and knowledge and step back and say, okay, my head has been in YouTube all day long. My physical, actual body that is made of energy might have some needs. It
Yeah.
might have vibrationally been experiencing one thing today. What else can I give it that is going to feel really, really good? That is going to take me back into replenishing, that is supportive for me.
Yeah.
Uh, those kinds of questions we haven't been raised, most of us haven't been raised to think about. We didn't think about, what, it's like we had this idea of self-care being a bubble bath, which is great. I'm a big bubble bath proponent. And what is happening in that bubble bath? What am I
Yeah.
experiencing? And bringing that embodied sense of knowledge to what's going on here, because we've
Yeah.
just ignored our actual physical bodies for so long, and that's caused all the problems that we have
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, like the whole like, well, I'm not super pro school system as I'm unschooling my kids, but I mean, like this system is kept us in this box of like not being in touch with who we are with our bodies, and this digital world that is right here um can have this effect as well. So for the kids when they're in school doing like this, where they're sitting and taking on knowledge, and then they get off school and on their device, like I mean, like there's this big imbalance right there, because when we used to be in school, even though like I remember for me it wasn't really working, but at least it was finishing at 3 and I could just like go outside and play and create and write and do the things that I love. But the things that they love is still sitting and taking on information, and so there's like this hygiene that I think we need to bring forward if we want our kids, the next generation, and ourselves as we're using these devices, um, to keep our nervous system regulated with this modern era. It's like we need to get back outside and to just like actually just get back in touch with nature and the body and our natural rhythm. It's just like
Mm.
so crucial right now.
Yeah, the most healing thing for me, I moved from Kansas to Portland, Oregon, and in Portland, being outside is so easy. In Kansas, being outside was actually a task, a chore. It's like
Yeah.
30-mile-per-hour wind, and the weather is never ideal. And so I have spent more time outdoors in the past 3 years than I have in so much of my life. And the
Mm,
transition that I feel from being outside, like we just need to be outside in nature more, put your feet in the ground. And I see this movement toward it,
yeah.
more and more, that it's like, oh my goodness, grounding, seeing a little bit of sunlight in the morning, all of the
Mm,
things that are supportive to us, getting outside and hearing nature's sounds that's
yeah.
actually naturally regulating for your nervous system, to hear the birds chirping, to hear the sway.
Mm,
We talk about the noise that we hear all the time, and that music can be really activating for our nervous system. Well, our bodies actually we're so capable of receiving a lot of noise. It's just a different kind of noise. Nature's
yeah.
noise is incredibly regulating for us, even though it's a cacophony. You go sit in the forest and listen, and it's like, wow, it's so much louder than I realized it was.
You think that
so much noise.
you think that silence will be in nature, but no,
it's not. It's not silent at all. It's like, if it's silent, we should probably be worried something's coming.
Well, that is so cool. You're talking about this because my next question was how, well, if you can tell us ways that we can be regulating our system, our nervous system. There's breath for sure. There's going back into nature as we just talked. Do you know anything else that could help people get back into their regulated nervous system?
Really, what the question that I love to ask people is, imagine yourself at 7 years old. When you were 7, picture around that age. And it doesn't have to be exact, but whatever memory comes to mind of something that you loved. For me, hula hooping. I loved to hula hoop. That was one thing. Another thing that for me, riding my bike and feeling the wind in my hair, the physical wind in my hair of that freedom.
Yeah.
Those two things I go back to them because that is in today to regulate my nervous system. I will move my body and I will dance and I will actually circle my hips like I'm hula hooping because it just feels so good to me. And I will go out in nature. I will drive with my windows down with a song on that I love because I had a Walkman, when I was a kid. I was so cool with my little Walkman, and I would, be on my bike, and I will have the wind in my hair, and just like that is so regulating for me. So go back to what brought you joy when you were 7, and that is going to regulate the bejesus out of your nervous system. It's so good to go back to what was the sensation that I felt while I was doing that thing. It doesn't have to be physically hula hooping. It can be, but some of us don't live in an environment where a hula hoop is really going to work, but you can sure as heck circle your hips like you had a hula hoop.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There's a million things that you can do. What it is really rooting it in your sense of fun and joy and activating love, the feeling of love in your body. Maybe it's a hug. Hugs are incredibly regulating. Simply going for a beautiful walk, that's regulating. Basically anything that gets you into a state of what you felt when you were a kid at your happiest moments is going to regulate your nervous system. You're going to be more creative in that space too. Think of how creative you were at that age. No holds barred to your creativity when you're 7.
Yeah. When you're even when you're in kindergarten, you feel like it's even a freer environment. And I remember kindergarten. It was very fun, and it was a lot of playful time and experiences, and being in the matter, touching stuff, experiencing dressing up. And I remember we did paper, we created paper. It was very fun to experience all of that. And it was all in this creative state of mind and that movement. And I think it's a great way to just reconnect with who we were. And if we have children, sometimes it's cool to see them, and to see them when they're that young, and to see what they like to do. I like to record that in my head, so that when their nervous system is going to shit, I'm like, hey, remember you like doing that when you were a little younger? Maybe we can try it. And so I think
that.
I think it's a great way to reconnect with who we were, who we still are, layered up under all of that stress. And
it's who you truly are. That's who you truly are. You're in your truest expression of yourself when you're a kid, before we get tethered to all of these things that we think that we should be doing. What you said about paper and touching paper, let me give everybody one thing that you can do that is a very active thing you can do to regulate your nervous system anytime. And this works because it brings you into the present moment. And that's where we are. That your parasympathetic is activated when you're right here in the present moment and you're focused on one thing. When we're kids, we love to touch things. And one of the first things that we learn when we're kids is don't touch that.
Yeah, true.
So let yourself touch something. Put your fingertip on something, whatever it is that is in front of you right now. I happen to have a coaster in front of me. So I'm
Mm.
going to place, it says maybe swearing will help.
I love it.
Actually, swearing does regulate your nervous system. It can
Yes.
lower stress hormone. So you could also just scream swear words, whatever. But you can put your finger on that thing and gently right now rub your finger on whatever is in front of you. It could be feeling your desk.
Mm,
Maybe you're driving right now and you can rub your fingertip on your steering wheel
mm,
and feel the sensations of that texture with such intentionality.
mm.
You can almost feel your fingertip ridges running across it.
Yeah.
And if you do this for 10 seconds, you will activate your parasympathetic nervous system because you're right here, you're right
Right
now,
now.
you're solely focused on this one thing. And that little kindergartner inside of you freaking loves it because it's getting to touch the thing and feel
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. The kids lately, they have this, they call that fidget. I don't know if you
The fidget
know.
spinners.
Well, not the spinner.
Oh,
There's like a lot of kind of fidget, like so you can pop stuff and you can like touch there's like texture involved. There's like this, my daughter has like this infinite cube. Like you can always like turn it and there's always a cube somewhere in there. And she has like they have like a lot of those little thingy like
tactile.
slime or anything that is like tactile. Yeah, exactly. Even though like she's 12, she likes to play with them. She has like those teddy bear that she can dress, and even though she will watch TV because she likes that, sometimes she will play with something as she's doing it. So she keeps on being like, I don't know how much it regulates, like if it's balance, like the way she's intaking information versus what she's doing with her hands, but she's always doing something with her hands. And for her, it's like, it's very soothing and nurturing when she does that. So I don't know. I just like encourage her to keep on doing whatever feels right at the tip of her fingers.
Yeah. I think the beautiful thing for us as adults to realize too is that we don't have to have a thing. You can do that anytime. You can
Mm,
actually rub two fingertips together
yeah.
and it will give you the same result. A lot of us have a habit of picking our fingers when as we're focusing on something, we'll like pick. So it's
Yeah.
giving yourself something enjoyable instead of something painful. You
Right.
don't have to use the pain of picking your fingernails or like biting your fingernails to
Hmm.
do it. We can do it in a more enjoyable tactile way. It's just that we were taught that we're not supposed to touch things. And so then we tend to like grip and it's like, no, 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 you can touch things. You're an adult
Mm-mm-mm.
now. You can put your fingers on whatever and touch something and let yourself enjoy that. So we're retraining our brain for pleasure, which is not, we have been taught in so many ways that things that we enjoy and things that we love to do are scary or bad.
Mhm.
And that's because our little brains didn't put two and two together, that what we were doing was really loud or what
Mm.
we were doing was potentially harmful, that we were about to do something that might hurt us when mom freaked out. And so we're retraining our very adult brain that knows now that it's safe to touch that, to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, there's so much conditioning in our childhood. There's a lot of work to do, but I mean like what else we can do? Like we just do it, right? We keep on doing it. We keep on evolving, keep on healing those things so that it gets better.
Yeah.
So as we're like we're ending this interview, and I really like to ask my guests that same question every time I end, and it's to give an advice to the people. And for you, I'll give the specific question will be something like, can you give what would be your advice for someone that has lost touch with their creativity, like they're listening to this and they're like, oh my god, that is so true. I forgot how to be in touch with my creativity. So what would be your first advice for those people?
And we're going to go back to that 7-year-old self question. This is the most powerful thing that you can do for yourself. If you feel like you've lost touch with your creativity, your sense, if me saying, go do something fun makes your butthole clench and you're like, what? No, I don't know what fun is. If you have that response, what did my 7-year-old self love to do when I was 7 or 5, whatever that age is for you? I go back to 7 because I feel like there's just this memory for me at that age. And for a lot of people, we feel something in that age group, but it could be younger than that. It could be a little bit older than that. When you were younger, what did I love? And then let yourself go do that thing. And notice what it was about that thing that you loved. Like I mentioned, the wind in my hair, that feeling of freedom. How did you feel? How did you feel? Go do something that brings that for you again. It's going to re-engage your creativity because it's going to connect you with what you love, which is where creativity is. If we look at the parasympathetic and the sympathetic is fear, your amygdala brain, fear, tiger in the bush. And the parasympathetic is love, creativity, joy, pleasure, fun. All things are over in that love. So we're re-engaging with that loving part of ourselves and re-signaling to that part of ourselves that it's safe. So you want to re-engage your creativity, go back to what you loved doing when you were a kid.
I love that. Thank you so much. How can people reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Untethered Jen. You can reach out to me anytime. I'll respond to any DM there. You can find my website and what I'm up to at jenliss.com.
Amazing.
I also have a podcast, Untethered with Jen Liss. So if you want to
You do.
check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll list it down below so that people can just click on them. But yeah, thank
Beautiful.
you so much. Thank you for all your knowledge. Thank you for being here with me. It was very, very fun to have you on, Jen. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate that you're here with me. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode with people you think might benefit from it. If you need support with your lifestyle and well-being, feel free to reach out to me. It will be my pleasure to help you with an Ayurvedic consultation. You can go to my website, marigolera.com, to book a session with me. Remember, in the wisdom of Ayurveda, self-care is not a luxury, but a sacred responsibility and a journey of nurturing oneself to foster holistic well-being. I wish you an amazing rest of your day. Much love to you, and I'll see you in the next episode.